Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to address the House on the importance of the recently commissioned Airborne Electromagnetic Survey report that was delivered to my office on the 7th of May of this year. Will I also rise, Mr. Speaker, sir, to address us today not just about the report and the capability of our groundwater systems in Fiji, but I also want to speak about how certain they are. Certainty of the supply, certainty of its safety, and certainty of its cleanliness from beneath the pristineness of our Fijian rock geology. Certainty, of course, Mr. Speaker, of the face of climate variability, certainty to the communities who waited long enough for this, and the certainty that the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources is now building and developing national capability to understand, to develop, and protect one of Fiji's most valuable strategic assets, our pristine and globally renowned groundwater. The initiative I will outline today is not an isolated project. It rose out of a challenge. It is a coherent and evidence-driven response to the single question, how do we ensure that every Fijian, especially those in vulnerable and undeserved regions, have reliable access to clean and safe drinking water. Mr. Speaker, the volume of requests that we receive, that members of Parliament receive, they communicate to us from communities across the nation tells its own story. And it puts pressure on our freshwater systems from prolonged dry spells, from population growth, from changing climate. And the changing climate, Mr. Speaker, I would suggest is not coming. It's already here. Each request that we receive is assessed, each community is heard, and I want to be clear about this, Mr. Speaker. The Ministry remains committed to responding equitably, not eventually, but in a very timely manner to these pressures. Mr. Speaker, in response to the pressures that comes from our community, the Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources had undertaken a transformative leap. Last year, we achieved a national major milestone. Fiji's first airborne electromagnetic survey was undertaken, and it was undertaken in partnership with the Australian government under our Vosarogo partnership. Geoscience Australia was tasked and commissioned to work with the Mineral Resources Department, map out Fiji's red zones, places where WAF reticulation has not reached yet and where rivers and streams normally dry up or dries up very quickly. Mr. Speaker, one may ask, why does this matter? Because groundwater, Mr. Speaker, is the most reliable strategic reserve during our droughts. Mr. Speaker, some months ago, I spoke about the yellow helicopter that a group of young students up north in Maduata, with its hanging round scientific equipment that is used to reading hydrology presence deep underground. And the group of students saw this helicopter, Mr. Speaker, on their way back to the village from the school. And when they were asked what it was by the village elders, one of the cheeky ones said, "Yana na helicopter autabuli na lawaningari." In other words, the speaker was saying there was a large yellow helicopter carrying a large crab net around the area. Mr. Speaker, we for the first time now have a scientific understanding of the distribution of groundwater, the depth of groundwater, and the quality we would expect across Viti level, Puno level, and interviewing. And as I mentioned before, Mr. Speaker, we targeted drought-prone regions, water-carting red zones, unreticulated communities, and coastal areas where we foresee is going to be subject to the threatening saltwater intrusion in years to come. Mr. Speaker, this document represents not just data, but this document contains direction for how the Mineral Resources Department will develop its work plan in the future. The survey, Mr. Speaker, began in June of 2025, and over 6 months, Geoscience Australia, the captain of the helicopter, and the MRD team, and the entire facility covered 7,086 flight line kilometers, approximately 80 days of flying across 13 strategically targeted regions in Fiji. To appreciate what that means, Mr. Speaker, what the helicopter exercise did, let's consider the alternative. If we had used the conventional ground-based method, electrical resistivity topography, that means the geologists and the hydrologists at MRD walk the physical distance in the terrain, the same coverage, 7,086 flight line kilometers, would take them roughly 7,086 days to complete. That, Mr. Speaker, is nearly 28 years altogether. 28 years versus 80 days. Mr. Speaker, I would suggest this is not an incremental improvement. This is transformative for Fiji. And I want to thank the Australian High Commissioner Roberts, his deputy, and our great friends at the Australian Embassy for the great facilitation. This would not have been possible without their intervention. Mr. Speaker, the yearly helicopter has since returned. Its work on the flight path have been analyzed and now translated. Preliminary data sets arrived in Fiji in December of 2025, and our groundwater team immediately began analyzing the report, identifying drilling targets in real time. The final report was formally handed over to us on the 7th of May, 2026. And that was following 4 days of intensive technical training by Geoscience Australia to our team here in Fiji. That training, Mr. Speaker, that I attended the last day of was not only ceremonial, it was capacity building. Because my ministry, as this Parliament would expect, should not just want a report. We should and must always be after results, because Fijians want results. Mr. Speaker, this ministry has been tasked with drilling 1,700 boreholes throughout Fiji. And let me be direct about this, Mr. Speaker. Without this EAM report, that target would take significantly harder to achieve, and may even take 28 years to get there. With the conventional methods, our team could assess 1 or 2 kilometer sites per week. With the EAM report, we have identified viable drilling targets faster, more accurately, and at a lower cost. Already our team, Mr. Speaker, has identified 38 drilling sites in the Western Division interpreting the AEM data. That is from just December of 2025. They looked at the report and the targets were locked on. In fact, Mr. Speaker, 13 boreholes have already been successfully drilled, producing adequate water for our communities. 2 more are in progress as I speak, and the rest will follow in the next financial year. Mr. Speaker, one might ask, what does this mean for an ordinary Fijian? Three things, Mr. Speaker. First, it reduces the time communities wait for safe drinking water. Second, it saves time, labor, and cost, resources that can be redirected to more community-based activities. And third, by identifying saltwater intrusion boundaries, it prevents our finance from expensive drilling in areas where success is unlikely, and that is not efficient, that is not good stewardship. No hydrologist, Mr. Speaker, not even the best in the world, can guarantee a dry borehole will never happen. Uncertainty is unavoidable. But with the AEM, we tilt the odds decisively in favor of success. More successful boreholes in less time for more of our citizens. Mr. Speaker, alongside this technological leap, we have strengthened our delivery model. We've engaged private drilling companies now and engaged them on a 3-year work contract, complementing the ministry's own capacity. 2 companies recently have completed 39 boreholes in the Nandranga-Navosa province. And since May of 2024, through a combined government and private sector effort, we have drilled 72 boreholes. To put that in perspective, Mr. Speaker, the ministry's previous delivery was 16 to 18 boreholes per year on average. In the 2024-2025 financial year, we achieved 40. But in the first quarter of this financial year alone, 32 boreholes. And we are now projecting approximately 130 this year. Mr. Speaker, this is not a marginal gain. This is a step change in operational capacity because it reduces the backlog and it strengthens government's delivery. And it means more villages, more settlements, more schools, and more farming communities receive reliable groundwater faster. Mr. Speaker, we are also piloting support for Fiji's most hydrological challenging environments, low-lying limestone islands in the Lau Group, in the Asawas, and Vatulele. For these communities, we are constructing freshwater infiltration galleries, horizontal boreholes buried just below the water table, with perforated pipes that capture freshwater seeping through sands and coral. This system taps into fragile freshwater lenses without causing saltwater intrusion. Mr. Speaker, groundwater is not evenly distributed, as we all understand. Its presence, its quality, and quality depends on hydrology, on climate, and the overall environment of the locality. And understanding those factors, Mr. Speaker, is not academic. It is essential, conservation, and for sustainable management. Mr. Speaker, let me put the human dimension into numbers. Between 2021 to 2025 financial year, 90 boreholes were completed across the West, North, and Eastern Division, directly supporting 2,750 households. That is approximately 12,200 Fijians. The Western Division recorded the highest, 52. The Northern and Eastern Division each recorded 19. Every one of those sites represents a community that no longer waits now for a water cut to come home. Every borehole represents time returned back to families, health improved, and resilience made stronger. Mr. Speaker, communities trust us when they request assistance. And that trust is not in the air. It is earned borehole by borehole, survey by survey, and decision by decision. The ministry I lead, Mr. Speaker, remains steadfast in ensuring that all Fijians regardless of location or of circumstances, benefit from the progress that we are making. Modernizing groundwater investigation, improving national water strategy, strengthening community resilience, and supporting community well-being. These are not separate goals, Mr. Speaker. They are one and the same. I commend this AEM Groundwater Survey initiative to this House in this ministerial statement I make today. I was only made possible, Mr. Speaker, with the assistance of the Australian government, our great Pacific friend, and rivals, of course, in the rugby pitch. And I reaffirm my ministry's commitment to continue this work with diligence, with all of you in this House, transparent and service to our people. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I thank the Minister of Lands and Mineral Resources. I will now